Well, even though I did have an accident, as you can clearly see from my face, it was on my job. Use the J word. But the 49ers probably had wounds like me after what happened on Sunday against the Houston Texans.
It's football time.
Alrighty, what's going on? Welcome back to the All Around Sports Podcast. For sports are everything on the channel. I'm your host, Antonio. Today, we're talking about the San Francisco 49ers, or as I call them, the red and gold choker jokers. The Niners, of course, got PTA'd by the Houston Texans, which for some weird reason, Seattle was able to beat them. And for some weird reason, the 49ers were not able to.
Look at him joke! Look at him suffer! Did you see that, boy?
Very interesting. But anyways, the Texans, of course, recorded for 475 total yards of offense, with majority of it coming from the passing game, with CJ Stroud. Only the 49ers, leave it to the 49ers to allow CJ Stroud's best passing game all year. But the 49ers offense did not look that great either. Their wide receivers in total of the wide receiver position combined for 101 yards. And then, of course, their run game could not get going as they had 48 rushing yards. And Mac Jones was 19 of 32, which CJ Stroud only had 9 incompletions and not even sacked once, like they had against Trevor Lawrence. But you already know what I'm going to talk about. The 49ers got manhandled, but we now have our third addition to the 49ers choke box. This is for a blowout loss, so I'm calling this a blowout loss because it was by 10 or more points. So that means another addition to the 49ers choke jar. Many more to come where those came from. But before we get started, if you guys do enjoy this video, do me a favor, smash the button down below, subscribe if you haven't already. For now, let's talk about the 49ers. Niners. You're telling me you cannot be a wide receiver thin Texans squad? Are you kidding me? I don't want to hear any excuses about injuries. This was a game that you should have won. There was no excuse for you to go out there and lose this game. No excuse in the world. You had most of your squad healthy and your quote-unquote best tight end in the league, who had the same amount of catches that he did in the Super Bowl for only 3 additional yards. He had 4 catches for 43 yards, but of course had a touchdown on National Tight Ends Day. Wasn't like what he had against the Dallas Cowboys during National Tight Ends Day a few years ago. But still, you cannot rely on the 49ers to beat even the worst teams. The Texans offensive line, you already know I've talked about them. The Texans offensive line, I said going into this week, was going to be the weak link. And you don't even get a single sack? Not a single sack on the worst offensive line unit in the NFL. Are you kidding me? I don't want to hear any excuses about injuries. We all know you all were dealing with injuries. But guess what? You still have a winning record, and it didn't matter then. So when you lose a game like this, those injuries don't matter. Purdy's going to be back soon, and also Pearsall's going to be back soon, which even if those two had played, they would have lost this game in the same fashion that they did today on Sunday. Because this team, the 49ers, let me go over this. JSN had more yards against the Texans than any of the wide receivers combined on the 49ers yesterday. You can't make this up. You cannot make this up. And not only that, they almost allowed 500 yards of total offense. 500. We're 25 yards away from allowing a 500-yard game. And not only that, this was the first game all season that CJ Stroud had 300 or more passing yards. That was not the only guy that was cooking you in the secondary. You had wide receivers coming off the practice squad, coming off of IR. You had teams coming out of high school, out of JV, coming in there and helping the Texans out. The only guy we know there that was a really solid guy that we knew that had experience with CJ Stroud was Xavier Hutchinson. But you allow Woody Marks to bulldoze right all over you. That was an embarrassment of what he did to this 49ers defense. Not only that, the offense of Houston, they looked like they were going out there looking like the Chiefs doing that. They looked like they had Jerry Rice on there with Xavier Hutchinson. Look at the way he was looking. You had the running game look like Emmitt Smith was there because they were running all over the Niners. This is why the 49ers I said their defense has been in question. Their secondary can't seem to get interceptions except for today when they had their first interception, but it still doesn't matter when your defensive line cannot stop a cold on the run game. And not only that, CJ Stroud had a better QBR than he did against Seattle. He had 88 QBR. I think his against Seattle was like what 70, 70. I think I'm gonna look at that really quick, but I believe it was that. Do you know what his? Oh no. Do you know what his QBR was against Seattle? 25.3. And the 49ers allowed a QBR of 88.3. 88.3. Not only that, his completion percentage against Seattle was 46.9. His completion percentage against San Francisco was 76.9. You can't make this up. You can't make this up. The 49ers, whether it's Mac Jones as their quarterback, whether it's Brock Purdy as their quarterback, whether it's anybody, they can never rise up to the occasion. They always have expectations on them. And whenever those expectations get higher and higher and higher, they'll always come crashing back down to earth. That's what happened today. The 49ers got BTA'd by the same team that got mollywopped a week ago against the Seattle Seahawks on prime time. And you couldn't even beat the Texans. Now, and only that, the Seahawks are now in the lead of the NFC West. They didn't even have to play a single game this week. They didn't even have to play a single game this week. And now they're in the lead of the NFC West. You can't make this up. The 49ers, I've said it multiple times. I've said it for a variety of occasions. You can never trust the 49ers to win the big games. They can't even win the little games. They lost to a 2-4 at the time Texans squad that was calling on. They didn't even have their top receivers. They had no Nico Collins. They had no Tank Dell. They had no Christian Kirk. And still, you made CJ Stroud go out there look like Joe Montana. You can't make this up. This is why I never trust the 49ers. They have been doing good with their injuries even with their injuries. But there's games like this that they crumble and fold like a bag of chips. This is the type of game I'm talking about. They're like a piece of burnt toast. Too dark, not even edible because it's too dark and bitter. This is why I continue to say the 49ers cannot win a playoff game. There's games like this that show why. You couldn't even get over 300 yards of total offense. Not even 300. Your run game had 48 yards. And I believe Seattle, they had more than that. I want to look at that really quick. I believe they did. I'm going to see if I'm wrong really quick. But the Seahawks had 118 rushing yards. Christian McCaffrey couldn't even get as many as Kenneth Walker did. You can't make this up. You cannot make this up. The 49ers always find a way to screw it up. Mac Jones' interception at the very end proved that. And he was just awful. He was so terrible. He was making Zach Wilson look like a better quarterback than Mac Jones. That's what happened. The 49ers got mollywopped. They got manhandled. They got strangled by the Texans and just got beat down multiple times. So, Niners, y'all better pray that Jackson Dart doesn't do the same thing, or there's going to be some big problems in San Francisco. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. What are your guys' reaction to the 49ers getting manhandled by the Texans? Let me know in the comments what you guys think down below. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, do me a big favor. Smash the button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, I'll see you on the next one. Ciao for now.